And we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Jeet Kune Dialogues episode number 319. This is Ask Me Anything version for the month of December. Last Ask Me Anything for 2024. And I am your erstwhile host, Dwight Woods, the Jeet Kune Rebel. So as you guys are logging in, if you'd be kind enough to say where you're logging in from, hit the like button and feel free to continue doing so throughout the broadcast, the dialogue, the whatever. If you're catching the simulcast over on YouTube, please be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell as well. But of course, the best thing you can do is to share this video and spread the word about the Jeet Kune dialogues. So obviously, I have no dialogue partner today. It's just little old me making sure that everything is up and running here. Let me take a look over on Facebook and make sure that the stream is live over there. Okay, cool. All right. And I don't see Bucky Barreto to let me know that we're also live on the YouTube, but I will assume that we are, simply because I didn't get any. Okay, there we go. Donnie R is over there. All right, so let me start first tonight with I got a question, and unfortunately, I can't find where I wrote it down, so I don't recall who it was from. But in any case, the question was about. I guess it was born out of the whole Jordan Neely, Daniel Penny escapade. If you guys are not aware of that, Daniel Penny is the former Marine who put the guy on the New York subway in a chokehold, and then unfortunately the guy passed away later on. He didn't die from the chokehold, apparently, according to medical reports and what have you. So someone asked me about a more humane way of dealing with such a situation. Now, I'm somebody who takes public transportation at least twice a week. So, fortunately for us, we don't have that kind of stuff going on our. Okay, so it was Scorch. Okay, I couldn't remember. Thanks, Scorch. Right, I couldn't remember. So here's the thing about a more humane way of stopping somebody. I mean, humane, I guess, means not hurting them. And so putting someone in any kind of restraint would qualify as humane. I think the reason why the adjective even crops up is because of the unfortunate outcome, which was Jordan Neely's expiration. But again, according to the medical reports, he didn't die as a result of being put in the chokehold. He died as a result of complications, not even necessarily induced by the chokehold, but just stuff that was going on with him already. And so, unfortunately, that was the outcome. So I think any kind of restraint. Now, in the old days, before rear naked chokes and arm bars and that type of stuff invaded your TV screens every weekend in the form of an MMA competition, people might not have gone for a choke. They might have gone for some kind of restraint, like an arm lock or something. But if you're going to be in a situation where you have to control people until law enforcement or security arrives, then yeah, locking, right? Some kind of lock is the best way. Some kind of restraint, I should say. And so the chokehold, you can see why people would resort to it because it's so common. And, everybody considers themselves an MMA fighter, right? I mean, to this day, I just watched a clip. I forget who sent it to me, but I just watched a clip of these two guys literally in the street. I mean, one guy's bareback and what have you. And the other guy is doing these foot sweeps that are quite reminiscent of what you might see in a Muay Thai match nowadays with all the foot sweeping and what have you. So the UFC stuff has definitely permeated the psyche of the general public. And so if you got to control somebody and you want to keep them from struggling, I can see why somebody would go to a chokehold, because if I put you in an arm lock or a shoulder lock or what have you, you're still going to be struggling. So maybe Penny, if he knew anything else, could have combined some kind of arm lock with some kind of neck restraint rather than. I mean, I don't remember the video, but I think they were down on the ground, and I'm pretty sure it was a rear naked choke, but I'm not sure, so don't quote me on that. But if maybe he could have done something that locked the arm and then put something around his neck, which wasn't quite the same as two arms around his neck, maybe things would have been different. I don't know, but that's a tough one, Scorch, because I don't think that Penny himself was trying to be inhumane. Um, it's just an unfortunate outcome, you know. Um, Yeah, so Frank. Okay, so Frank's saying essentially similar to what I was saying, that Neely didn't die as a he didn't die from the choke. Yeah, and see, and that's the thing, right? Because then the public gets involved, and as soon as you hear, um, military and a chokehold and what have you, and a guy died, they're gonna think the worst automatically, because that's just the nature of what we the nature of the society that we live in. So I don't think that a chokehold is necessarily inhumane, um, but I can't think of a better way to try to restrain somebody. For I again, we're lucky here in Miami. We don't see that type of stuff. Um, or maybe I'm just on the train, and if I'm ever on the bus, maybe I'm just on the train and the bus at the right time of the day, because I've never had to deal with stuff like that. But and thinking about it, hopefully, if something happened, we have security at every station. Every station is, let's see, I think the longest ride between two stations is 3 minutes between the Grove and Vizcaya, I think. Right. Everything else is about 2 minutes, or between like Douglas Road and University. Yeah, those are probably the two longest ones. Everything else is 2 minutes. So if something happened, I had to start restraining somebody, hopefully somebody else, or if I yell out, call security, and they call 911, and I'm able to yell out, call security, and let them know to get on the train at the next station. I mean, I can see all of that happening, but it ain't. I don't know, man. I guess it all depends. If the guy if that Jordan Neely guy had pulled out a knife or something, you know, some kind of weapon or something, that chokehold stuff may or may not have worked. Um, it's a tough call, Scorch, a really tough call, right? So that was the question that I got, and I wanted to fill you guys in on something that's been going on Facebook here the other day. Well, not the other day, actually, it's going on right now. So this is these are the two photographs from a post that I put up on Facebook. So my good friend Richard Torres, he had put up a sequence of photos from, I guess, from a magazine article or something, featuring Ted Wong doing a couple of takedowns or what have you, right? And as soon as I saw the pictures, I was like, oh, these look just like stuff that you can find in Larry Hartzell and Tim Tackett's Enter into Trap into Grappling book. So I put up these side by side photos simply to illustrate that there are idiots out there that will say, oh, Larry Hartzell isn't Jeet Kune because he follows Dan Inosanto into the concepts, and so he's done Filipino stick fighting and Muay Thai and other things, right? As an aside, Larry Hartzell was the person who fed the Thai pads for me the first time I got introduced to Muay Thai. But I digress. Whereas Ted Wong, you know, he's Bruce Lee's best student because he only teaches what Bruce Lee taught him. My point in the post is it makes no G-damn difference because look at where the two of them ended up. See, so to go, oh, well, concepts is bad, original is good, or vice versa, is the stupidest thing. And I know Brooks Long agrees with me, right? Because here's the evidence. People end up doing the same thing because, to paraphrase my good friend Richard Torres, there's only human movement. So that's why I made the post, to make that point. And my good friend Anthony Casey over in Ireland says that I am controversial because I keep putting up stuff like this that causes division. A post that is designed to show commonality apparently is a post that causes division or controversy. I don't get it. Right. Anyhow, so I just wanted to bring that up for a second there because people are so full of it, right? So David McDonald says I've been rethinking using the chokehold after the Daniel Penny situation. I used a rear naked choke to break up a fight between a couple of guys in a bar. The guy was out in 15 seconds, dropped to the floor, and I immediately woke him. Yeah, see, so this is the thing, right? See, because of the kind of negative publicity that can be attached to stuff like this, now reasonable people like David McDonald will hesitate to use such a thing because it's like, oh, well, you can get yourself in trouble. So now people have to start thinking in terms of, well, if I come to the assistance of people in need on public transportation, do I have to worry about getting in trouble myself and being sued or being arrested for trying to be the good guy? And that's a terrible situation. That's um, an unfortunate evolution, I guess, in society where you can't come, you think twice about coming to people's aid because of the possible ramifications, you know? Anyhow. Oh, I'm reading the last part of what David said here. It says he and the guy saw each other the next night at another place, and the guy came up, apologized for his actions, and they shook hands and had a beer together. Yeah, see, well then chokeholds work, David. Right? In the long run, chokeholds work, right? Um, let's see who else is here. Oh, right at the top, Donnie R asked if there were any JKD schools in Iowa. off the top of my head, Donnie, um, was that what's his name? You know what? Tim Mausel. I think Tim Mausel used to be in Iowa, if I'm right, but he left Iowa a long time ago. Uh, so if I do a quick search here, it says there's something called Shake martial arts. It's under iowajeetkundo.com. Um, and it looks like they are okay. I guess this is where okay, so this is a school with Todd Garrison, who is a student of Jerry Poteet. So yeah, I'm probably butchering the name of it, Shake Martial Arts Systems, but Donnie R, if you go to iowajeetkundo.com, you'll find something there, and there's another one, Dragon Steel Jeet Kune um, in a town called Monroe, Iowa. Dragon Steel, and it looks like Shake Martial Arts is in Burlington, Iowa. So I hope that helps, Donnie. Okay, so let's see what. So Magazine Retriever says Bruce Lee was like an octane booster to the gasoline that was already inside of Dan Inosanto. Bruce Lee was not the gasoline itself. Bruce Lee was the octane booster to the gasoline that was already inside. There's something to that, because remember, before Dan Inosanto met Bruce Lee, Inosanto was already an almost Olympic level sprinter. He was an epic ground gainer for his college football team. He was a standout basketball player at his height, right? So he was pretty much, he was an athlete for sure. So I think that I won't say who, but a really trusted colleague of mine has said that to a certain degree, Dan Inosanto has made a career out of making Bruce Lee look good. And it doesn't mean that Bruce Lee would not have looked good. It just means that Inosanto has seriously contributed to the allure of Bruce Lee. And sometimes I think he's done it a little bit to his own detriment. So, for example, there are instances, and I'm not telling you guys anything that you don't know about, but there are instances where Inosanto will say, well, if I tell them that it comes from Bruce Lee, they'll respect it more, as opposed to letting people know that, no, it's my stuff. I came up with it, right? And I won't tell you what it was, but I saw just a few days ago an example of that. Something that everybody thinks comes from Bruce Lee simply because that's how it was first expressed. When the truth of it is that it actually comes from Inosanto, but sounds better if you say it comes from another source. So I'm trying to think of it. So the other day I was being interviewed for a thing called Kung Fu Talks, right? And they had asked me the question about how I got my start in martial arts, and I started out with this story about being a young kid growing up in Hong Kong, right? And being, paying regular visits to Shaw Brothers studio. Now, everybody knows that's not true, but it sounds really good. So imagine if I was the kind of person who wanted to make himself appear to be more than he is. And I concocted this story about being a regular visitor as a child to Shaw Brothers Studios in Hong Kong, and that's where my fascination with Kung Fu started. There's not very many people around who could disprove that, right? And so it would sound really good, and so I could get away with it. Right? So anyhow, right, not to make this about me. So I think that it was a lot of a yin yang situation. I think that Inosanto brought out some stuff in Bruce Lee, and vice versa. Bruce Lee brought out some stuff in Inosanto for sure, right? I think that to a certain degree, in Bruce Lee may even have mellowed out Inosanto, but I'll leave that right there. All right. Okay. So. Let's see. And again, I apologize because it takes me a while to get to your comments as I'm scrolling through and what have you, right? Okay, so who's here now? Tim Becker, what's happening? Seems like Richard almost gets it. Tim, between me and you, just me and you privately here on this live stream, Richard Torres gets it, okay? Richard Torres gets it. The other guy who gets it is Bob Landers, but they have these psychological impasses because of their misguided loyalty to an ideal. But they get it. And I'll tell you who else got it ultimately. Their instructor got it ultimately. And that one I'll leave right there as well. Right? Brooke says, post a picture doing that choke with a stick, and that'll really get their panties in a bunch. I wonder if I might not have that exact picture, Brooks, but I think I do have pictures of stick grappling. You might be onto something there, right? Tim says chokes are fine as long as you're not crushing the windpipe and you don't hold it on a guy nearly as long as that guy did. Okay. Right. Well, Tim knows a whole lot more than I do about chokes and what have you. So if you hold it too long, right? Yeah, I guess that's always a problem. Now David says, as a further thought on the RNC, I would rather use the arm-in choke. So like the stand-in triangle, I've heard some people call that one. Similar to what the picture that I just showed. So here's the picture, right? So yeah, I don't know, David, because if we're on a moving train, I think probably have to still end up on the ground in order to contain this guy. I don't know how much. I don't know that we could stay upright and pull that off. But who knows? Huh? Right. Donnie R. Tim wants to know what part of Iowa he has a student in Davenport. Right. So now we have Monroe, Davenport, and I forget where the other spot was. Burlington, I think it was. So Donnie, you got 3 towns that you could check out, right? Davenport, Burlington, and Monroe, Iowa. So you should do fine. Okay, let me take that out. Terry Vallis says, if you had only half an hour per day to train, what would you focus on? So one day, so every day I would focus on I would find a program, Terry. 9 Well, see, because if I only have half an hour, so I got to get some martial arts stuff in there along with some calisthenic stuff, perhaps, right? Because if I only have half an hour, I don't know. I would seriously investigate the most efficient 20-minute um, weight lifting workouts or dumbbell workouts or something. And when I say efficient, I mean so that you're doing resistance training and aerobic conditioning at the same time, right? And so, but if I didn't find something like that, then I would just be happy with a calisthenics workout. I've for a long time, over 10 years, I've been a big fan of Scott Sonnen's Tap Fit workouts. So and some of those are those are 20 to 26 minute stuff. So now I only have 4 minutes for martial arts. So maybe if I couldn't find somebody to do the work for me, maybe I would design a martial art type workout that did all the strength building and aerobic conditioning stuff. So maybe something that involves like squats and kicking and push-ups and punching, or squats and kneeing and push-ups and elbow, right? And then maybe something with weaponry for the lungs, right? So I'm sure somewhere out there, Terry, somebody has done this. I'm pretty sure. But I would try to make it a well-rounded workout that targeted specific attributes, and I would try to make sure that martial art movement was in there as well. Um, that's one approach. But if it's every day, so I have 7 days a week, I could not do that. I could do martial arts one day, um, bodybuilding or weightlifting or whatever one day, aerobic conditioning the next day, because I got 7 days to spread it across. So I could have the blended workout 7 days a week, or the what do we call it? Specific workouts, changing that up every day, but making sure that I rotated between those attribute developments. I don't know. Right? Thank God I do have more than half hour, right? So um Del Mountain says in the tired discussion, that's a hell of a way to start it. In the tired discussion about Dan Inosanto changing Bruce Lee's art, we should all remember that Sifu Dan was on his own journey before he met Bruce. Bruce augmented what Dan already knew. Yeah, yeah, Del. Because it goes back to this thing about, I seriously believe that people think that, well, once you come across Bruce Lee, you don't need anything else, because an individual pretty much espoused that view. But they didn't realize that that individual, and I mean Ted Wong, was espousing that view for himself. I don't think Ted Wong ever said, if you're like me and you've been exposed to Bruce Lee, the only thing you need from here on out is what you got from Bruce Lee. I don't think Ted Wong ever said that. But Ted Wong appears to have come to that conclusion for himself. So then, when he was in a position to impart of his knowledge to others, that's what he did. But he never said that his way, sticking to what Bruce Lee taught, is the way of Jeet Kune. He never said that. So yeah, that's why it is a tired discussion. I think without Bruce Lee, Inosanto would have continued to look at different things no matter what, for sure, for damn sure, right? I think he would have. So yeah, I'm with you on that, Del. Um, so Tim says the octane, right, for Inosanto was his father, Hank Slomansky, Ed Parker, Bruce Lee, and Johnny Lacoste. Yeah, see? So, yeah. But then, Tim, somebody will go, oh, yeah. Anthony Casey will say, yeah, but in the phone call with Dan Lee, Richard Torres would say it too. Bruce told Dan Lee that Dan was still searching. Now I'm trying to create controversy, right? Right. Scorch says pretty much the same thing. Inosanto has always been a quick learner. So if he had never met Bruce Lee, he still would have been an amazing martial artist. He was just a remarkable catalyst for Sifu Dan. Yeah, I think a lot of people, Scorch, don't they don't understand the idea, right? They don't understand the idea of the relationship between the two of them, you know? So yeah, let them struggle on in their ignorance. Um, when so Cesar says when the stakes are very high, which other options? What other options do you have? Knock him out. Remember, Master Po said, "Maim before kill." Yeah. Well, I don't remember Master Po saying "maim before kill," but yeah, Cesar, it's I heard Paul Vunak express a similar concept in the term injure to a degree, you know. So taking somebody's knees out, taking somebody's eye out is a fairly drastic degree, right? And if that's your response to a guy raising his finger at you and threatening you, and you go bam, knee gone, bam, eye gone, you know, the cops would probably be very interested in talking to you, right? Okay. Um, so let's see who just joined the party. Uh, Danny Terrell. Wow, Danny, I think this is the first time that we've seen you on here. And Bay Area PDT. So for those of you who don't know PDT, right, that's Paul de Torres, right? I think is that I might be right. Okay. Um, Mike Yuski says yes, stick chokes, right? Um, oh, Cesar, you're messing with me. Cesar, you're messing with me. You're toggling back and forth between the YouTube and Facebook, right? Um, Bucky says, "What's the future of SEMA?" Well, I don't know, Bucky. Are you talking about SEAMA, or am I supposed to know what SEMA is? Right? Clear that up for me, Bucky, and I'll get back to you. There are some strength. Okay. Terry says, "What if it's just martial arts?" All right. So I got 30 minutes a day for just martial arts. Um, my feet would always be moving, Terry. Okay? Whatever it is that I'm doing, my feet will always be moving because at my age, it's important to get the heart rate up, right? So my feet would always be moving. At my age, shadow boxing, let me tell you, is sometimes good enough, right? So, um, again, it depends on the situation. Do you have a training partner that you can do stuff with? Do you have equipment that you can hit? Is it all going to be in the air because you don't have equipment or what have you? Right. But in any case, it's definitely movement based as much as possible for 30 minutes. And if it's just martial arts, it's going to be a blend of empty hands and weaponry. Um, Terry, I know that you're deep into the jujitsu, so that's why I mentioned the thing about having a training partner, right? But if you don't, I'm sure that there are solo exercises for Brazilian jiu-jitsu that that you can engage in, right? Because every art has its own shadow boxing method, doesn't it? Right. So yeah. So again, if it's martial art and it's 30 minutes a day, maybe I would alternate, right? Do like a blended thing one week, and then the next week specialize, do a particular one or two things for 15 minutes and just go between that. Because of course the big thing would be to not get bogged down into doing the same thing all the time, right? So that you get bored or what have you. Um, my good friend, my TCF teacher, G. Anthony Joseph, he's a good example of that. He works out at least twice a day, and has certain protocols that he covers every week, right? Maybe I'll bring him on sometime in the new year and have him talk about the stuff that he does in his garage and see, right? Mike Yuski says many class formats, mix in exercises, burpees, and what have you. Yeah, see, yeah, but Mike, burpees work for young kids like you, right? Burpees for old farts like me. Next thing you know, I'm dead. Right? Actually, the thing is, so I have a good friend, and we have a tradition uh, called birthday burpees. So you do whatever age you are, right? On your birthday, you do that number of burpees, right? And there's a age difference between me and her. So when it's her birthday, it's easier on me. When it's my birthday, it's not that easy on me at all, right? Um, CLRG. Okay, so guys, everybody say congrats to CLRG, who's going to have to change that photograph of him and his daughter. He's going to have to put up a photograph of him, his daughter, and his newborn son. So everybody say congratulations to Carlos. But Carlos says, ask Chat GPT to make a 30-minute JKD workout that incorporates calisthenics and aerobic conditioning. Well, calisthenics, aerobic conditioning, and martial art workout, right? Yeah. But yeah, man, Chat GPT. Carlos, I had a conversation with him a few months ago, and he showed me how he uses it in his business, and it can be a really useful tool, right? I was talking with a friend of mine the other day because she was thinking that Chat GPT is for lazy people, right? Because she was thinking that it's a thing that does the work for you, and I think that Chat GPT is a perfect example, or a very good example of quality in, quality out. Because if you ask it a question that does require, so no thought on your part, right? Then, and you expect it to do all the work for you, then you have to be happy with what you get back. But if you know what it is that you want, you know what it is that you want to express. And so what you're asking for is, in essence, a shortcut to an expression of what is inside you. Then it's a good tool. And it's not even a tool, it's now an assistant, right? It's not really a tool because it's not doing the work for you. Okay. It's helping you to bring out what you already have going on inside of you, if that makes sense, right? Um, Bucky says, what's your kung fu movie must watch? excluding Bruce Lee movies. Okay, so everybody knows Snake and Crane Arts of Shaolin, and even though I am not the biggest fan of the Jackie Chan kung fu comedy that he, in 82, I think was his debut of that stuff. I literally felt so bad for the thrashing that Jackie Chan gets from Huang Zhang Li, I think it is, in their first fight scene in Drunken Master. Before, well, I think when he tricks him into thinking that I think it's in that one. It's the one where I'll look it up. I might even make a post on it because I felt really bad for him. But the reason I felt really bad for him, Bucky, is because the choreography is so good. The fight scene is so good. And then there's the fight, then there's the ultimate fight scene um, between the two of them. And then they fight again. Do they fight in Drunken Master 2 also? I can't remember. But you know what's another favorite? So it's not the movies, it's like the fight scenes that are favorites for me, Bucky. It is well, I first knew him as Liu Chialiang, but he's called Lau Kar Lung, I think is like his Mandarin name, or actually probably his real name, and what I knew was the Cantonese Hong Kong name, right? But it is this Drunken Master also? But it's the fight scene under a train between Lau Kar Lung and Jackie Chan, and one of them uses a spear and the other one uses a broadsword, but they're under a train, right? That one's pretty awesome. So, um, so Drunken Master, Snake and Crane Arts. I was telling the guy at Kung Fu Talk that my introduction to Kung Fu films was the One Armed Swordsman. So what else? There is Challenge of the Ninja. And Challenge of the Ninja is also known. Hang on one second, Bucky. Let me see if I can find it. Challenge of the Ninja, because it has another name. Oh shoot, no. So I'm looking at IMDb. So the Challenge of the Ninja, the 1986 movie, is not the one that I'm talking about. That has something to do with some guy named Baron something. So, uh, what is then? There's Challenge of the Lady Ninja, Heroes of the East. Yeah, Heroes of the East, Bucky, is so it's known in some places as Challenge of the Ninja, but it's Heroes of the East, and that stars um, Gordon Liu, who we knew as Lucia Hung, I think, right? And then his I think Lau Kar Lung is his big brother, right? He's the director. So anything that has Lau Kar Lung as director, choreographer, or an actor in it is something that we should probably watch, Bucky. So so Heroes of the East or Challenge of the Ninja, and then staples for me are Five Shaolin Masters, um, um, Disciples of Shaolin, and well, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. I mean, I know that's a more modern one in terms of the start of kung fu films, but I love that movie. I think that one's really really good. Okay, so that's enough of that, Bucky. Um, Frank says, avoid rather than check, check rather than hurt, hurt rather than maim. maim rather than kill. So I guess that Frank, that comes out of Kung Fu Master Po. All right. Okay. So Bucky says Southeastern martial arts. So Bucky, what's going to become of Southeastern martial arts in what context? Because if you're talking about the SEMA classes that Ron and I talk about at the Inosanto Academy, what's going to become of them? I think those will continue for as long as they can continue. But again, Southeast Asian martial arts. I mean, that's a phrase that Inosanto uses, but it's not a. These are things that exist out in the world, right? So Letwe, Bando, Muay Thai, Pencak Silat, Kali Eskrima, what's going to become of them? So unless you're talking about the class at the Inosanto Academy, Bucky, these things are always gonna be around. As far as what happens at the Inosanto Academy, we got to wait and see, right? Mike Yuski says squat, bench or push up, row or pull up, ab exercise, overhead press, total body strength right there. Yes. Yes. Thank you, Mikey. Right. Kenneth Fleming. That's a new name for us, I think. Hello to you, sir. Okay. Magazine Retriever says, are any Filipino martial art weapons that you're not comfortable training with because of the way it's shaped? Some of those curved blades seem like they would be challenging to safely train with. No, not really. Not for me. The biggest challenge is edge awareness. If you're working with a double edge blade or a single edge blade, that's probably the thing, the biggest issue. The thing that I do not relish, I'm looking around to see if I have it here, but I don't. I have this at hand. And if I could put my hands on a second. Okay, so I'll make this up, right? But this thing here, this kind of not double edged, but I forget what you call what you would call this. But this two-sided, what do you call this? Whatever. I don't like it because because when when I'm working with this, right, I always have this blade, this other blade that's almost like pointing back at me. You know what I mean? So it's almost like I got to keep this out there away from me. So I'm not a big fan of the. Do you call this a double-edged knife? I forget. Right? I'm not a big fan of that one, unless it's the shorter version, right? But curved blades are not that big a deal. Not really. Right. Oh, Mike is still going on. You guys know Mike is a personal trainer, right? So use a lot of Silat. Oh, I'm sorry. It's not Mike. It's Mark Black. Sorry, Mark. But I think Mark is also in the fitness industry. If I have my people straight, right? Use a lot of Silat motions for all round body conditioning, especially with the spinal issue. I think you're referring to yourself, Mark, right? And add pad drills to it. Yeah, yeah. That again, Mark is substantially younger than I am. So that's why his mind would gravitate towards doing a lot of CLAT stuff and adding, right, kick shield and focus mitt to it. I do that stuff for 15 seconds and that's it. I'm done. End of workout, right? Pedro Rodriguez is here. Hey, Pedro. Right. Bucky says, I'm getting ripped for the new year. Okay. Cesar says, maybe it's misinterpretation on my part, but it seems that many of Ted Wong's notables, Terry Tom, Bob Landers, have left JKD. No, I don't think many of Ted Wong's notables. I think a couple people, like you just said, Terry Tom and Bob Landers have retired, actively retired from Jeet Kune, but yeah, that's not it's not a thing, right? Um, some people get into martial art and stay in it. Some people get into martial art and get out of it. I mean, if you look around, right? If I think about all of us who frequented the Globe Cinema, the Empire Theater, and what the heck was the other one? It was the Globe, Empire. I was talking about this just the other day, and I could remember the name of it. Not the Roxy, not the Olympic. Wow, I can't even remember. Anyhow, of all of us who used to go watch kung fu films all the time, every week, I might be the only person that's still in martial art. I can't think of any of the rest of us that stayed in it, you know? Um, there are people that I know from Barbados who we weren't in the same martial art group, but there are people I know from Barbados who are still in martial art themselves. So, it's a thing. Some people get in, some people stay in, some people get in and they get out. I don't. It doesn't necessarily mean anything of significance to me, right? Terry, I think I'll give you a very good framework to start with. Terry, I think Mike is talking to you. Um, Chat GPT can give a good. Mike says Chat GPT a good outline to start with. Yeah, well, definitely it can give you a good outline, but I think it could probably even do more, Mike. I'm not sure, right? Nathan Hunt says I've been learning a lot about Chat GPT from Greg Horton. Well, Greg Horton is the man, right? In fact, Nathan, the other day, I think I posted something and Greg commented on it, and then Carlos says, "I didn't even know that you knew Greg Horton," and I'm like, "Duh." Right? I've known Greg for over 10 years. Yeah, over 10 years. Right? There we go. Right? So Greg is a past client of Carlos's, and yeah, he is a total badass. Right? David McDonald says 5 fingers of death. Okay, so David McDonald, I have a question for you about 5 fingers of death, because, and now people are going to go, Dwight, what kind of kung fu connoisseur are you? Right? But unless, right, 5 fingers of death is also known as bloody fists. Okay? Now just keep this between me and you, David. Unless 5 fingers of death is called bloody fists, I may not have seen 5 fingers of death. But if it was also known as bloody fist, then I did see it. But I seem to recall that bloody fists was not a so the star of 5 fingers of death is Lole, right? Yeah. So, and he was not a fan. I was not a fan of his, but I was a fan of Chansing, and I remember Bloody Fists. Okay, so Bloody Fists, that's what I saw instead. I didn't see 5 fingers of death. I saw Bloody Fists because Bloody Fists was Chansing, who was a favorite of mine, and also Chi Kwan Chun, who, no, not Chi Kwan Chun, Chen Kwan Tai. Chen Kwan Tai, who became a real favorite of mine. You know, you guys are getting me hyped up. I think when I'm gonna hang up with you guys and go watch me some Bloody Fists before I go train tomorrow, right? Five Fingers of Death. Yeah. Okay. Mike says, if you could go back anytime in history and train with someone, who would it be? Well, I don't want to be obvious and say I would train with Bruce Lee, right? I mean, who wouldn't? But there's a bunch of people, right, Mike? Because my outside of my kung fu film heroes, right, my martial art heroes are people like Tsutomu Oshima of Shotokan, um, Masatoshi Nakayama of Shotokan, um, Masutatsu Oyama of Kyokushin, um, Jason Lau of Wing Chun Kung Fu, um, there's also what's Bok Sam Kong, who I believe I know that Bok Sam Kong was one of his books was Tiger and Crane, so I'm not sure. I'm not sure if he was a Choi Foot person or not, right? But Bok Sam Kong is one person I would have trained with. When it comes to my Taekwondo influences, so I would have trained with. I would love to have trained with Chong Lee, and also with Pugil Guan, right? A guy that I don't know anything about him as an instructor because I know him from movies and his book, Dynamic Stretching and Kicking, or The Art of Stretching and Kicking by James Liu. And you guys might know James Liu. He was a prolific he was a prolific Hollywood stuntman, right? So I would love to have trained with him because his stretching book was one of my go-to materials. And those are the people that come that resonate. So you can see that my heroes, Bruce Tegner, okay, um, my martial art heroes before Bruce Lee ran the gamut of um, Chinese martial arts, Korean martial arts, Japanese martial arts, right? Because even though Bruce Lee was the main squeeze, even before I met Inosanto, there was nothing in Bruce Lee's writings. So there was nothing that I had come across where Bruce Lee was saying, you know, once you're into my stuff, you don't look at anything or anybody else. You see? Okay. So yeah, so it would be any of those guys, Mikey. Frank says we can all watch P90X's Kempo X. Kempo X. I never heard of that, but I guess that's Tony Horton, right? Is the P90? No, yeah, Tony Horton is the P90X guy. So, So somebody took some Kempo stuff and turned it into an online workout. Eh, American ingenuity, right? Um, Pedro Rodriguez says, "When are we getting together again?" When you slow down, my friend, that's it. When you slow down, right? Mark Black says, "Police Story and Armor of God are just crazy." Youth, Police Story. If Police Story is the one with what's her name, the Malaysian girl that does the motorcycle stunt, right? Now I'm showing how Police Story. So originally Jackie Chan and Maggie Chung. So that's not who I'm thinking of. Um, Michelle Yeoh. There we go. Right. So which one is the Michelle Yeoh motorcycle stunt? Which Jackie Chan movie is that? Is that one of the Police Story trilogy or whatever it was? Armor of God. I never saw that one again because I turned off of Jackie Chan when what you guys know as Snake in the Eagle's Shadow. I think we know, and by we I mean down in the islands. We that was released as Snake Fist, Eagle Claw, Cat's Paw. That's the name that we knew it under. And so even though I enjoyed the fight scenes, I didn't like the kung fu comedy, and so I watched that, and then I pretty much ignored Jackie Chan until who knows when. I don't remember, but for quite a significant period of years, I ignored Jackie Chan. I had other things to do. Right. Okay. So I think Carlos went to Chat GPT and had it put up a. Oh my God! Look at this. Carlos went to Chat GPT and asked it to create a workout that a 20-minute workout. Let's see if I can read what it is that he did. Right, a 20-minute workout that incorporates tac fit principles with Jeet Kune techniques. That's all you got to do, right? Okay, I'm gonna print that out, Carlos, and go through it and see if it's really accurate or not, right? Okay, so Danny Terrell says 10 3-minute martial art rounds with 30 seconds break between round, shadow fighting, shadow wrestling, bag work, stick work, kettlebell work, sledgehammer work. Terry Valor, aren't you glad that you asked that question? Look at all this good stuff that you're getting, Terry. If you can't make if you can't copy and paste this stuff, let me know and I can send them to you when we're done. Thanks for that, Danny. Very 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 useful. Right. Speaking of Jackie Chan, if you haven't seen The Foreigner. Ah, I saw that. That's the one where does his daughter does his daughter get abducted or something, David? I think, right? I think that's the one. Ah, she's killed. Yes. I've seen that. Yes, that is a good Jackie Chan movie for sure. For sure. Um Michael Marcellus Brown says, how do you view Jerry Beasley's take on Joe Lewis's interpretation of Jeet Kune Do? So Jerry Beasley, for those of you who don't know, is a top lieutenant of Joe Lewis, right? A student and perhaps even a business partner of Joe Lewis's. So my view of Beasley's take. So Beasley's take on Joe Lewis's interpretation. So that's my take on Beasley's take of Lewis's take on Bruce Lee's stuff. That's what that question is, right? So my take on Jerry Beasley's stuff is that Beasley. So Joe Lewis was such a talent, such a talent, right? You can see why Bruce Lee would have enjoyed hanging with him. And you can see why Joe Louis in turn would have enjoyed hanging out with Bruce Lee, right? So Beasley's take on you on Joe Louis, which you could say to an extent from my interactions with Beasley, is that, well, you got to see if it works. You got to spar it and see if it works. So my take on that is 100%, because if you cannot pull it off in what do people call it, a contested situation, then you're not going to know if it works or not. So I'm 100% on on Beasley's take, on Joe Louis's take when it comes to functionalize. So that's like that would be encapsulated in one of the training outlines, I guess you could say, that I've gotten from Inosanto and Magda, which is learn the technique, practice the technique, functionalize the technique, put it into the flow, add the counter, add the recounter, right? So yeah, I'm 100% on their take on their take. Um, hey, Eric Young, hope you're having a great time over there in the Philippines, my friend. And thanks for that video. But Eric, you didn't shoot video of the drummer. You know me, I want to see what the drummer is doing, right? But thank you so much, man. I hope you're having a great time. Um, Scorch says, I always found the dubbed English in most 1970s Kung Fu movies to be so strange. It's neither American English nor British. It sounds like no other dialect I've ever heard. Um, I don't know. I think we always thought that it was a blend, so to speak, of British English with a Chinese accent, right? So I remember I don't remember what movie it was, but it might have been something like Five Fingers of Death or Bloody Fists or what have you, where there's a character and he was known socially, right? There was this Chinese kung fu actor who we used to call him Skinny Guy, right? Because in one of those movies, um, and if I could find a picture of the guy, you guys, if you've watched kung fu films, you would know exactly who he is, right? But we called him Skinny Guy, and this is the impact, right? This is the impact that, as an aside, when you remember that Bruce Lee documentary, I think it was I Am Bruce Lee or one of those, and it talked about the impact that Bruce Lee had on what they call African American in African American people. We had the same thing, right, as Negroes in the islands, because Bruce Lee was our guy. Kung Fu films, that was our thing. So in the uh, the music form, the indigenous, so to speak, Barbados music form called spooge, we had a song, a spooge song. There was even a version of spooge that was called Dragon Spooge, and that was a reference to Kung Fu influence. So there is this one particular song where in the lyrics, right, the guy takes some dialogue from one of those Kung Fu films, right? And he goes, and he does it in his best Chinese Kung Fu accent. And he says something like, um, um, he's a skinny guy and beat him again, right? Which is exactly the type of English dubbing that you would hear in a Kung Fu film. And he's a skinny guy, beat him again. And that's in this spooge song, right? I know now you guys are thinking, Dwight has lost his rocker. He's off his rocker, right? But no, that's how much kung fu films became a part of Barbados culture when I was growing up. So we didn't find it strange at all, Scorch. It made perfect sense to us. But that's funny. That's so funny. Uh, Kenneth Fleming says that Cynthia Rothrock was the bomb. Yeah, I know where you're headed with that, Kenneth Fleming. I almost got a chance to meet her in 1985 when we were going to CMAA camp in St. Louis. But Cynthia Rothrock and George Chung got the call for Hong Kong, and so they weren't able to do their thing in St. Louis. Yeah, but again, I I know that I know she had a wonderful career in Hong Kong, lady policewoman or whatever it's called. But I don't know her. I don't know her stuff that well. But what I do know is that her stretching book that she co-authored with George Chung, that was one in my library. That was what I trained stuff. In fact, if there was a stretching sequence that was part of my, I think even when I was teaching fitness kickboxing, so like 10 years ago, there was a particular stretching sequence for me that came right out of the Cynthia Rothrock and George Chung stretching book. There was a time in my life when I could do a thing called the Roth Rock, which is her standing on one leg and you put the other. You see the little Shaolin kids doing it all the time now. So you stand on one leg and you put the other leg up and you hold on to your shoe. There was a time when I could pull that off. Ancient time, right? I could do that. I could do that one time, and that was called the Roth Rock, right? Yeah, Bucky says Southeast Asian martial arts in general. What's going to become of them? They're going to continue to evolve in their own way. There's always going to be people intrigued by Asian stuff, and so people are going to continue to visit and get interested in martial arts. It's not going to stop. Look, we had, what year was it? 1982, 83, or 84, whenever it was that Karate Kid came out. Then we had the sequel. Then we had the Jaden Smith version. Now there's another version of Karate Kid coming out with Jackie Chan, and then we had Cobra Kai. Right? I don't think that type of stuff is going to end at any point for any reason. There's a thing now called, this did not exist when I was introduced to Muay Thai in 1985. There was nothing called Muay Thai tourism, right? Like there is now, the phenomenon that is, right? Ajahn Chai was taking people to Thailand to train. That started in the 1980s, but not to the extent that it's grown into. Bucky, do you see the UFC or One Championship or Pride or whatever it is that the MMA people do out there? Do you see that losing popularity anytime soon? I don't. So on different levels, whether it's competition, sport, or whatever, and because of that, there are people who are going to be culturally interested. They might not be interested in martial art at all, but there'll be cultural interest in that part of the world, and stuff will go on, and we'll always have it with us. Del Mounted says, I love Heroes of the East, the movie about a Chinese man who marries a Japanese woman who turns out to be a terrible person. No, she didn't turn she didn't turn out to be a terrible person. She just wasn't a woman for him. No, she just wasn't a woman for him. But yeah, The husband and wife story is a really interesting sales plot, right? Yeah. Um, okay, so okay, I get now I know what we're dealing with here. So Ken Fleming is Kenneth Fleming. See, I saw your YouTube name, Ken, and I thought I've seen that name before, but it's Ken Fleming on Facebook. Okay, I got it. Okay, well, cool. Thanks for your interaction today. David says Cyrus uses something like that. I guess you're talking about the double-edged blade. Danny says not many of us in our 70s are still training. I know, I know, right? That's why Inosanto continues to be the icon, continues to be the role model, right? 88 and still doing his stuff, right? Mark Black, 53, going on 54. Good for you, my son. Good for you, right? Ronan in the Nati says, still doing martial arts at 78. Yeah, man. See, that's it. That's it. Luis Martinez. Ha ha. Luis Martinez. Man, people are coming out of the woodwork tonight. What's happening, my friend? Oh, man, your name comes up. Your name, man, let's see. What were we talking? Who was I talking to? Your name comes up so regularly. Oh, man, good to see you. Going on 64, still training solo. Way to go, buddy. David McDonald says, also known as King Boxer. Which one's known as King Boxer, David? Right. Speaking of fitness, if Bruce Lee were alive, what do you think he would do with a little bit of time? Kettlebell, kettlebell and high intensity interval. He'd find something to do for sure. For sure. Yeah. I think when it comes to fitness and what have you, Cesar, Bruce Lee would definitely have stayed on the cutting edge of that stuff. I think that into his older years, he would still have been very, very interested in maintaining high degrees of fitness for sure. Right. Danny says, don't get your blood pressure too high with those movies. Yeah, no. Because I will have, when I finish with you guys, I will have about 2 hours of before I gotta hit the sack. So I'm definitely gonna go watch me something, right? James Liu was one of the ruffians in the gym fight scene in The Perfect Weapon. Perfect Weapon. That was the Silverman Jeff Speakman film, right? I watched that. What year did that come out in? Because now I'm one. Let's see. Perfect Weapon, 91. Yeah, see, because I was trying to think for a second there who I watched that with, but it wasn't who I thought because that was 1991. So that would have been. Oh yeah. Okay. All right. Okay, Del, you're making me. You're taking me back. Right. Um, did Bruce Lee ever mention African martial arts? I don't know. Who is this? Los Foley. I don't know if he ever did. But if he read Drager's books, right? Because I think Drager has some stuff about African martial arts in his books. I think. I can't swear to it. So if Bruce Lee did read Drager's books, then he would have come across something about it. Um, there was a gentleman from Detroit, Michigan, Kalindi E, who I met. I worked with him a little bit. He and he collaborated with Sifu Inosanto, right? I remember, man. I don't know. I probably don't have the video still, but one of the things that I loved and that I know for sure that Inosanto loved about working out with Kalindi E's group was the drumming. I mean, they would have a bunch of drummers, right? When they would do their stuff. So there was some collaboration between Sifu Dan and Kalindi in the African martial arts stuff, right? So Perfect Weapon. Let me see. So Mako is in that. I want to look. I want to look at the stunt people in Perfect Weapon. Oh, Mariska Hargitay was in that, huh? Roger Yan, James Liu. Okay, yeah. So James Liu was in that. But who did? Who was in charge of fighting? Let's see. Ah, Rick Avery. Nice. Oh, Bobby Bass was involved in that too. Oh man. Brian Imada, Jeff Imada, Al Long, Will Long. Right. Look at that. Gary Toy. Had all Glenn Wilder was in there. Had all the people, man. All the people. You guys are making me so nostalgic. So nostalgic. Right. Other than the top floor of the Game of Death. That's a good one. That's a good one, Lost Foley. African martial arts on the top floor of the Game of Death. That's a good one. Bo Jackson, Michelle Yeoh. Yeah. Hi, Michelle Yeoh. Yep. That's a thing, right? Bo Jackson, Street Fighter, Sonny Chiba. Okay, so I'm going to get myself in trouble with my good friend Luis Martinez. I didn't like Sonny Chiba. I really didn't. I didn't like Street Fighter. It didn't do it for me. I think it wasn't pretty enough. And even when, okay, Lewis, watch this. Watch this. Even when Etsuko Shiomi, I'm pretty sure that was her name. Sue Shiomi was her stage name. Etsuko Shiomi. Even when she showed up in the Sonny Chiba stuff, still didn't really move me. Um, the aesthetics of Sonny Chiba, yeah, wasn't a thing. Was Bruce Lee exposed to capoeira? Again, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know enough about the history of capoeira and its whether or not you know, it was, it certainly wasn't prevalent to the best of my knowledge in the 1960s when Bruce Lee was in America, right? So I doubt it. But again, he may have read about it, right? Um, but I doubt very much. And again, see, it's funny, right? It's so funny. So this is the second thing that Los Fole has asked about. And I can say, however, Bruce Lee's premier disciple, Dan Inosanto, he certainly got involved with capoeira. There used to be a capoeira class at the Inosanto Academy. Sifu Dan trained in capoeira. Sifu Dan's assistant, Joel Clark, he's a top capoeira guy. Um, my dabbling in capoeira was strictly as one of the stunt guys in Only the Strong, right? But yeah, so if Bruce Lee himself wasn't exposed to African martial arts and including capoeira, Dan Inosanto certainly was. Um, David says Police Story 3 was Michelle Yeoh. Okay, so that one I've watched. That one I've watched, and I watched it because of Michelle Yeoh. Not that I have a thing for her, not that there's anything wrong with that. Right. Um, Mark Black says, I've never been impressed with the Hollywood movies of Jackie Chan. Oh, you mean like Rush Hour and stuff like that? Or even Battle Creek Brawl? Yeah, I know what you mean, Mark. Right? Um, So I think this is Raul Roa. Besides Courtney, any of the former students follow the path of becoming JKD instructors? Yeah, there's Chip Kelly, right, and then there's some other people. But yeah, but Chip up in Central Florida, right? Um, you should put the 8 episode series Black Sash. Russell Wong. Russell Wong was he was Genghis Khan in Marco Polo, wasn't he? Okay, I'm making a note. Magazine Retriever Black Sash. I There was something called Black Doves. Somebody told me to watch that the other day. Right? Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm on it. Los Folios says good movie. I hope you're referring to my movie Only the Strong. All right. Um, this stuff I'm not sure about. Jason Hendrickson, late to the show Armor of God, starring Jackie Chan. All right, I will investigate Armor of God because now a second person has mentioned it, and you know what? I might go watch it and go, oh, I did watch this, right? Um, Frank says, "Have you ever had Arnis elbow? It's similar to tennis elbow." Oh yeah, oh yeah. I've had guachoy elbow, right? Right. So yeah. I mean, anybody who spends too much time, right, doing weaponry or training the a really extended version of the back fist and what have you, right? So from like what do you call it, from the ball and socket drill or the hinge principle and that type of stuff. Yeah, if you're not careful, you'll definitely do something. And every once in a while, um, it will flare up, but not so bad, not so bad, not like the old days. But yes, I've had that before, Frank. That's funny, right? Okay. Los Foley, I don't know what you're referring to with your one word comments, right? Anyhow, okay. So Tim Becker says the funny thing is people dubbing the movies actually had scripts or translations. They made it all up as they went along. I have an actor friend who was in town training back during and we did a Jackie Chan movie night. He's fluent in Mandarin and Cantonese, and he was telling how much the movie dubs were way off. Oh yeah, yeah. I wouldn't. That doesn't surprise me at all, Tim. It doesn't. That's hilarious, though, right? That's hilarious. But it's true because my good friend Alex Richter, you guys know Alex Richter, the Kung Fu genius, when he talks about the shenanigans that went on in movie making in Hong Kong. Yeah, that's why the Chinese version, the script, right, that you'll hear if you can translate it, what Bruce Lee says in Way of the Dragon, for example, is completely different to what we might hear him say in the English dub version or what have you. Yeah, yeah. Nathan Hunt says I met Cynthia Rothrock at the Martial Arts Super Show in 2022. Oh yeah, I'm sure you enjoyed that, Nathan. Right. Um, Harold Hank. Hey Harold. Hank, man, I haven't seen you on the train again, right? Mondays and Fridays um I leave Miami International on the 257 Orange Line. If you can keep that in mind, Hank, right? The Orange Line from MIA, Mondays and Fridays at 2:57. So I have no idea what time that gets to downtown, but I'm usually on that train, right? But Hank says that Karate Kid Legends. Yeah, I saw something about that. Like minimal interest in watching that stuff. I've never watched anything about Cobra Kai. I haven't. It's just not my thing, right? Bo Jackson says he watched a documentary about the guys that made up that did the dubs, right? They totally made stuff up and were even drunk on the job at points. Well, that makes sense, right? He's a skinny guy. Beat him again, right? Okay, so Bucky, Tim says Southeast Asian martial arts are going to grow. More Letwe and Pradal Sare coming out. He just interviewed with. Okay, so yeah, Bucky, Tim is a good guy to talk about this stuff because he's in the mix and on the cutting edge and what have you, right? So yeah. Okay. Joe Goldstein's here. Bruce Lee would be doing the same thing over and over. We don't know what he'd be doing, but it would vary greatly. Okay. All right. Jeff Speakman is now the head of Kempo. Okay. Kalindi, yeah, Kalindi E. Let me see if I can. Let me try to get the right spelling for you because if I remember the spelling, Joseph, it was Kalindi, and his last name I think was Iye. I'm not sure, right? David says he has his VHS tapes converted to DVD and MP4. David, you and I might become best friends then. Yep, we should definitely become best friends, right? We'll never see Bruce Lee age, but we are seeing Dan Inosanto age. What changes do you think are important to make as the years go by? I don't know, man. I'm not old enough to know about the changes. I'm kidding, right? If you start out early enough, Cesar, then you don't have to make changes. You do have to modify stuff, right? But if you've been committed to fitness for, you started out at a younger age, then you just work within the modifications. So I don't know that there are changes that you have to make if you've been on the path for a while. If you haven't been on the path, then it's not a change. You got to find a way to get on the path. But Inosanto always, makes a joke about every 5 years or every 10 years that your body won't let you do the things that you used to be able to do. But I think that generally speaking, if you continue to focus on strength and flexibility and endurance, right? You can't go wrong. Those are the three fundamental. Well, you know what? Let me add mobility in there, right? So flexibility, mobility, strength, and endurance, right? I think you're good. So if you've been on the path, you continue to focus on that and you adjust as you can, right? You adjust as you need to. But to try, for somebody who hasn't been doing stuff to go, oh, in 2025, I'm going to get in shape, man, that's a little bit of a battle right there. Mark Black says, I actually have a soft spot for the American Ninja movies. And Bo Jackson says, "Me too." Oh my God, you guys are disgusting. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Right. Tim says Black Doves was fun. Had a couple people from Warrior in it. Yeah, yeah. Um, my friend who turned me on to Black Doves, I in turn, we set up that we're gonna spend some time watching Lioness because I think that that Lioness is like the current bomb for me, right? Mark says Black Doves is worth to watch. Some good Kali fights. Well, you know, if there's a Kali fight in it, right? That Russell Wong was in a series called Forgotten Son. I don't think I know that one, but if Bo Jackson recommends something, I'm all over it. Right? Bucky says, "Are you aware of a martial art called 52 Blocks?" Yes, I'm very aware. In fact, there used to be a guy who was a 52 blocks instructor that I used to have conversations with him all the time when he would go to the restaurant next door to my school, Bucky, over on Kendall and 127th, and so I talked with him very often, and he turned me on to 52 blocks and what have you. Yeah. 50, let's see, 52 blocks. There was another thing called man, hang on, because there's a movie there's a movie that had something to do, but it wasn't called 52 blocks, but it was another um it was another hmm, right. It's Lethal Weapon and Jailhouse Rock. It wasn't a thing called 52 blocks, but it was Lethal Weapon and Jailhouse Rock. But now I don't remember the particulars of it. But I know that when Lethal Weapon came out, you know, Jeff was in that, and Gracie Jiu Jitsu was featured in that, and then there was something also about Jailhouse Rock. So look that up, Bucky. I'm aware of 52 blocks, but I can't tell you much about it. For ah, Bo Jackson says anything special planned for Titans? Yeah, maybe a Friday night special, or even a Saturday evening special, outside of the main course of instruction. Wink, wink, um, Bo Jackson. Okay, so Nick says, by Jong, advantages utilized in aspects from ground up footwork to target. Physics. Do you see this understood and or applied in all your time of JKD? No, not all the time, because some people who should know better, in recent times, we've been really digging into the heel up stuff, and it's a little bit disturbing to see notable JKD people who, it's not that they totally ignore the heel up aspect, because I've seen them over time, but there are glaring instances where they're not paying attention to it, and it's kind of, when you start looking for it, right? When you start looking for it and you see it, you go, wow, I didn't notice that this guy in particular wasn't really applying um, the advantages that you get from, you know, the heel raise, the heel drop, and what have you. So not all the time is it understood and or applied, right? Very often it is, but not all the time. No, yeah, that's a good one. Tendinitis of the elbows, wrist, fingers, they all ache. Yeah. Um, one of my girls said that to me the other day. Something about, who was it? She said something about um, what she does with her body these days, or what her body does to her these days is mostly ache. I forget, right? Um, Bay Area PDT says I train with him via Cliff Stewart. Ah, that's some good stuff right there. That's some good stuff right there, guys. Um, Bucky says, tell us more about Seafood Chip Kelly. I met him a few times, didn't know he was your student. Well, Bucky, you might not. I mean, if you didn't know that Chip was my student, so where would you have met Chip? You would have met Chip at Titans. If you would have met Chip at in Coral Springs. So if you didn't know that Chip was my student, it would be because, we were talking about inquisitiveness last night in class, Bucky. So if you didn't know that, it would be due to not sufficient inquisitiveness. I'm just teasing, right? But yeah, of course. So just you could talk to Chip. You could talk to Chip at length. He'll be at Titans for sure. You can talk to him at length, or I'll tell you more about him when I see you tomorrow, Bucky. Right? Kalindi E. Yes, that's his name and how to spell it. Okay, so for you guys who are looking for it, that's how you spell Kalindi's names, right? Mike Yuski says, Sifudan says, if you don't move, it gets worse. That's the damn straight, right? Anthony Casey, my man. All right. What? The only thing about JKD that was said was my name and Richard Torres. Whatever, right? But Anthony, I will say this to you because I thought about it, right? So let me fill you guys in. Anthony said that my post about the grappling thing, right? That my post was designed to stir up controversy, right? And I'm like, but the post is showing commonality. So I don't know how commonality, right, and controversy can be the same thing. But Anthony, I will say this to you directly because, see, here's the thing, right? My parents did a really good job of instilling certain virtues in me. And so it takes me a while. I have to think about things before I realize what people are really like. And you accuse me of spreading controversy when I put up a post that is neutral. It is neither discourteous nor complimentary to Ted Wong, but you have a nasty habit of getting on Facebook and talking crap about Dan Inosanto almost every bloody time that you post. And then you dare accuse me of putting up a post that is designed to stir up controversy. You got some big balls, my friend. There you go. Mark Black says Linus is brilliant, right? Zoe Zaldana was in Colombiana. Yeah, Colombiana I didn't like as much, right? But Lioness, oh my God. But Mark Black, just between me and you, right? Lioness, what's her name? Genesis Rodriguez. Oh my God. Genesis Rodriguez. Just so you know, Mark, that is what we grow in Miami. Okay? She's a Miami girl. Went to school at Carrollton High School. That is how we grow them in Miami, Mark, in case you ever want to visit. Right? Luis Martinez says prodigal son. Yes, prodigal son. So let's see. Prodigal son is the prequel or the sequel, I think, of Warriors 2. Thank you, Luis Martinez. I love you to death, right? Those are two other things that if you guys have, if you've never seen those are like two top Wing Chun movies. Prodigal Son, I'm pretty sure I got this right. Prodigal Son and Warriors 2, right? Jailhouse Rock. Yeah, David, I just remember that there was this talk in the era of Lethal Weapon about a system that was devised or constructed or whatever by incarcerated inmates, and there was something about it in the Lethal Weapon. So you might want to look that up, right? Magazine Retriever says, yep, that Lethal Weapon implemented it, right? Bo Jackson, Prodigal Son, that's how old I am. Yeah, baby. Vanishing Son is what it was called, a miniseries from the early 90s. Tim, I think you might be, I don't know if you guys are mixing stuff up. All right. Ramon Diaz says Kisi. So again, Ramon, my scrolling is way behind, so I'm not sure what that is in reference to, unless you're talking about stuff being featured in movies. So then PC Fighting Method, I think, got its debut in the Batman thing, right? With American Psycho guy. Come on, Dwight. You can do better than this. Oh man, I can't even remember the guy's name. But yeah, but I think that's what Kesey was. Raul says that restaurant next to school was good. Boy, those were the times, Raul. Yep. Okay, so magazine says Martin Riggs used a combination of Jailhouse Rock and Gracie Jiu Jitsu in the final scene. Okay, sweet, sweet. Shogun Assassin. No, nope, that didn't do it. Right. Jeff Amada cut scene with Mel Gibson is on YouTube. Lethal Weapon is my Christmas movie. Okay. Lethal Weapon is my Christmas movie. Is that like that ongoing thing about Die Hard being a Christmas movie, Mark? Right? But Lethal Weapon cut scene, huh? You know, if I'm not careful, you guys are going to make me stay up real late tonight, and I'm not supposed to stay up late unless the dude that gives me permission, you know. All right. Bo Jackson says Prodigal Son, Vanishing Son. I thought that was the basics of JKD. All right, you're gonna have to let me know what you're talking about, because it's what Sifu Balaf taught day one. Yeah. So let me know what you're talking about, what it is that Mark Balaf taught. I'm surprised that Horian Gracie didn't challenge the Jailhouse Rock instructor to fight on set a Lethal Weapon. Oh, man. So Nick says, is there a scientific through line that maybe what your good buddy is looking to see in JKD? All right, so Nick, I'm not sure who you mean by my good buddy, right? In fact, Nick, I'm not even sure which Nick is this, right? Because now, not to speak for anyone, of course. Okay. So Nick, the through line thing, that concept has made me not rethink because I've always thought about it, but it has definitely influenced the way I look at progression, right, in Jeet Kune. Okay. In fact, I'll tell you something. So, we do move in basics, right? And you do move in basics, advancing, retreating, but you do move in basics in reverse. So I have even started. I won't tell you exactly what it is because I'm going to show the guys in the park tomorrow. But even move in basics has come along and affected some of the even the weapon stuff that I do. But I can't talk about it any more than that, right? What's a Bucky? I wonder. Bajin. Oh, I think you mean Bajan style supplement and nutrition routine. Well, since I didn't grow old in Barbados, Bucky. So, and you know, as a kid in Barbados, I could have lived off ice cream and cake, but I'm not a good person to ask about supplements and nutrition. I'll tell you this, right? Because there were things that we grew up with that you get older and you're like, and it falls out of favor with you, and then when you get older, you find out that you should have stayed um, taking it. So, for example, stuff like cod liver oil, right? Apparently, cod liver oil is something that we should still have been taking. But that's stuff that, as a kid in Barbados, nobody wants to take cod liver oil. Oh my God, it's the worst thing in the world, right? So that's one. Um, but yeah, I can't think of anything because I was so young and I was so fit that I didn't really have to worry about supplements and nutrition or whatever. I could live off anything, right? And still do what it is that I had to do. So I'd have to, Bucky, remind me tomorrow when I see you, and I'll ask some of my peeps in Barbados what's West Indian supplements and nutrition stuff. Derek Fury wants to know: have you ever seen the movie Red Belt? No, I haven't. For those of you who don't know, Red Belt is a jujitsu movie done by um, Guy Ritchie. No, I'm sorry, not Guy Ritchie. Dave. Dwight, come on. Oh man, this is so embarrassing. I hate when I have these senior moments. Red Belt is done by David Mamet. Yes. God, how can I forget? There was a time, Derek, in my defense, there was a time when if you said anything about David Mamet, I could just rattle off all his stuff for you, right? Like I could tell you that the the Jim Belushi, Rob Lowe, and the girl, what's the girl's name? Well, anyhow, that the movie About Last Night is actually a movie done from the David Mamet play, Sexual Perversity of Chicago. I could tell you that about the David Mamet stuff. I could tell you about directors who apprenticed under David Mamet, right? So I could tell you about State and Maine and the heist and his wife Rebecca, whatever her name is, right? There was a time. So in my defense, there was a time when I could just rattle all that stuff off. But you get you get older and stuff starts to fail you, right? um, Norman says, I'm playing a gig. Norman, don't let us interrupt you from the gig. Here's a question: would you consider JKD a Euro-Asian martial art or Asian Euro because of the heavy Western influence. You know, Bruce Lee himself said that he considered his art to be Chinese. So, you know, but when you think about it, growing up in Hong Kong, when it was a British colony, there's already a Eurasian influence. So Bruce Lee himself apparently was Eurasian. So I think there could be an argument for Jeet Kune being a Eurasian martial art. But then again, there can also be an argument that no labels for Jeet Kune, even though it's Chinese term, right? So I've never really thought about it in terms of being of any particular national influence or whatever, to be honest, Norman, right? Um, Scorch says Natalie Martinez is another Miami girl who went to St. Brendan's. Who's Natalie Martinez? What would I know her from, Scorch? Natalie Martinez. Oh, I know that face. Yeah. What do I know her from? I don't know what I know her from though, but I know that face. Yeah, yeah. Well, you know, Scorch, between me and you, right? We do grow 'em fairly fine here in Miami, right? Um, Christian Bale, right? That's it, Mikey. Kesey debuted in Batman Begins with Christian Bale, right? Yeah. Okay. All right. I think I'm gonna wrap this up. Oh my gosh, look at it's 8 o'clock, guys. Okay, we gotta go. I gotta go. Because let me just make sure. Cesar says Cesar says you're always a very easygoing person. This is the first time I see you lose your temper. No, Cesar, actually, that's not a loss of temper, right? Because a loss of temper leads to much more destruction, right? That's just an opportunity to set somebody straight. And it is, yeah, that's all that is. It's an opportunity to set somebody straight, especially when I realized, right, what he is guilty of. And then I thought, where does he get the stones to accuse me of something? That's actually what that is. So no, that is not a loss of temper. A loss of temper, stuff gets thrown, right? You know, a loss of. I'll show you something, right? So you might not be able to see it, but there's an indentation in this knuckle here, right? Which is a result of a loss of temper in 1977. So yeah, I learned my lesson a long time ago. But thank you for your concern, right? Okay, so Derek says I just had. So you, if you guys don't know Fury Cast, Derek's podcast on the YouTube, you should definitely check it out. He just had like Burley, um, and he disagrees with the idea that it came from prison. Okay, cool, right? So that should be something to for you guys to check out. Mark Black says, "I feel Miami should be done in the near future." Oh yeah, buddy, for sure, right? In fact, Mark, I went to this was new to me Indian restaurant, a halal restaurant on Wednesday. Oh my gosh, fantastic! So I can't wait for guys to visit so that I can take them there, right? Derek Norman says that Jailhouse Rock comes from a guy named Dennis Newsom and is called 52 Blocks on the East Coast. That's interesting. Oh, okay. So Nick and Nick. Yes. Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay. All right. Nick, you guys are gonna get me in trouble, right? Okay. All right. Hank says that Red Belt is a great movie. Okay, I'll take a look at it. I think here's the thing, Hank. I think because Sifu Dan is in it, like I bought the DVD, but then I never watched it. And David Mamet is my guy, but I never watched it. Okay, I'll take a look at it. All right, Nick, that was with the other Nick at LA and Miami. LA, where were we in LA? Okay, we're gonna have to take this up at another bit because I really gotta get going. Um, Raul says Bruce Lee would have labeled JKD as human martial arts. Natalie Martinez was in Under the Dome. Yes, that's the one. That's the one. And then she did. A police procedural series in Detroit or something, right? I think. Yeah. All right, Scorch. See you. Um, when you're normally really laid back, becoming assertive seems like losing temper to people who are used to seeing you being laid back. Same happens to me. Yes, Tim. Tim, Tim, thanks for putting that in a much better expression than I ever could. Right? Okay. All right. So that is the end of the scroll, and that will be the end of today's episode. Thank you guys very much for hanging out with me. Um, we will pick up on the interviews in the beginning of the new year. I've got a whole bunch of really good people to bring to you. For now, though, however, I will direct you to titansofjkd.com, where people like Hank should really check this out, and even if it's just for that weekend, Hank, get a little bit more martial art stuff in your blood, right? So go to titansofjkd.com where full details are available. um if you're over on the YouTube, you can also join and be a paid subscriber to the Jeet Kune Dialogues, which helps to support the show. Just click the join link and you'll see all the different membership levels. And that will be it for this week. Thanks for all your support. Thanks for hanging out with me, guys. I really appreciate it. And we will do this again next week. Okay, you guys take care. Have a great weekend wherever you are. This is Dwight Woods, the Jeet Kune Rebel, signing off. Talk soon.